Arizona students, welcome to the update. I'm AB.
And I'm Tiff. Lots happening over the weekend and even today, so let's get this show started. Ukraine is still holding on strong, discouraging Russian troops and further frustrating Putin. Leading countries around the world have stepped up in a major way by providing aid to Ukraine, making it possible for the unrelenting Ukrainians to hold their ground. Boris Johnson from the UK announced additional military aid, and the US has been a front-runner for support as well. The UN Human Rights Council is investigating abuses by Russian forces to see if they count as war crimes. Putin is putting blame on the West for enticing a global crisis. And in Kherson, located in southern Ukraine, Putin has appointed a governor, and pro-Russian separatists will be requesting annexation. Meanwhile, amid all of this war, as we have pointed out in previous shows, Ukraine is known as one of the world's biggest exporters of corn, wheat, and sunflower oil, and has been known as the breadbasket of the world. However, according to Ukrainian's agricultural ministry, flows of these products are largely stalled. Grain exports are currently limited to 500,000 tons a month, which is down from as much as 5 million tons before the war. And this is a total loss of 1.5 billion that Ukraine normally counts on and is another consequence of the war. This is having a rippling effect and causing food shortages around the world as well. And speaking of unintended consequences, due to the war in Ukraine, two important countries who usually claim neutrality are now changing course and making history. Yesterday, Finnish President Sauli Niinisto and Prime Minister Sanna Marin announced Finland is seeking NATO membership, and Sweden has also decided they will look to join as well. Both countries have stated that this move is a direct result of the Ukraine invasion. And Russia is furious over the current situation, and Foreign Ministry has stated it'll cripple their current bilateral relationship and would force Russians to take additional steps, including using the military. Now, Finland has maintained Russia brought this on themselves with their invasion. And Finland also shares a lengthy border with Russia, spanning just over 800 miles, and would double the length of Russia's borders shared with NATO member countries. And as of Sunday, Russia has stated that they have suspended electricity supplies to Finland, starting this past Saturday. Now, the only potential issue for joining NATO, besides the Russian retaliation, is Turkey vetoing their admittance. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan stated Turkey would block their admittance unless both countries take a stand against Kurdish militants fighting in Turkey. The Finnish delegation responded that this is definitely something that can be worked out. And over in Pakistan, ousted former Prime Minister Imran Khan is rallying his supporters to try and regain control of the office. Khan feels his removal was a conspiracy involving the US and Pakistani puppet politicians. And his official rally is called the Freedom March, according to the Washington Post, and the goal behind it is based on anti-American sentiment. Khan has hinted at civil unrest if he's not reinstated, causing more tension in the country, and protests and rallies have been held all around Pakistan against the new government. Meanwhile, Khan's opponents have condemned him for spreading poison and undermining democracy. And new satellite images show China launching practice missiles, and some say prepping for an invasion of Taiwan. Helicopters and KQ-200 anti-submarine warfare and maritime patrol, or ASWMP aircraft sorties, have been identified in Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone. U.S. intelligence officials claim China is already preparing for a takeover in coming years and are watching China. Issued a warning to the U.S. after the USS Port Royal was spotted in the Taiwan Strait, which China says this was an instigating measure, while the U.S. maintains the ship was performing a routine transit in accordance with international law. Another source of contention between the U.S. and China regarding Taiwan is that the U.S.'s website, what once used to say the U.S. does not recognize the independence of Taiwan, now states Taiwan is a close ally. Again, the U.S. denies these actions as escalatory and stated the change was part of routine updates. China believes Taiwan is a part of the homeland, while Taiwan craves independence. And as the world watches, so is China, to see how it all unfolds and potentially calculating if the risk for invading Taiwan is worth it. And in Australia, the race for Prime Minister is heating up, with voters heading to the polls in less than 2 weeks. The election is set to take place on May 21st and will be between current Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who represents the Liberal Party, and Anthony Albanese, who represents the Labour Party. Morrison was elected back in 2018, however, has been under scrutiny for his slow rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine and home antigen testing kits, and for going on vacation when Australia was blazing in wildfires. Now, his opponent, Anthony Albanese, has also been criticized for his lack of knowledge and will need to make leadership style changes. After their last debate, early opinion polls show Albanese now has a slight edge over Morrison, though it's been reported citizens are not overjoyed by either option. And in Brazil, there is also a much anticipated election coming up, and this one is going to be between incumbent Jair Bolsonaro and former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on October 2nd. Bolsonaro's critics are frustrated with how he handled COVID-19 for attacking democracy and poor economical leadership. Meanwhile, Lula is making a comeback. He was president of Brazil from 2003 to 2010. However, he was accused of and convicted of money laundering and bribery back in 2017. Lula always maintained his innocence, claiming the accusations were unfounded and part of a conspiracy, and in 2021 his conviction was annulled, paving the way for him to add his name to the ballot. Polls currently show and predict Lula's potential victory. And here in the U.S., a senseless and tragic loss of life happened in Buffalo, New York on Saturday. This mass shooting occurred at a Tops Friendly supermarket in New York. The incident is currently being investigated as a racially motivated terrorist attack, and 10 people were killed and 3 others injured. The shooter live-streamed the attack on the service Twitch and is currently being detained. And finally, along the U.S.-Mexico border, thousands of migrants and drugs cross the border daily. The Biden administration is facing massive public scrutiny for the lack of security along the border. In just March, 221,303 migrants were stopped at the border, and that was all in just March. For the first half of 2022, more than 1 million people have been encountered trying to cross the border illegally. President Biden plans to lift Title 42 soon, which is a measure that allows border officials to immediately expel migrants at the border without allowing them a chance to claim asylum. If and when this happens, the number of migrants is expected to sharply increase. One of the largest consequences of an uncontrolled border is the amount of drugs coming across the border. This is a very serious problem and is very sad, as fentanyl is infiltrating our communities across America, making all towns border towns, as fentanyl has now caused more overdoses than any other drug. Warnings are now out that fentanyl is in most basic of street drugs such as marijuana, and PSAs are circulating around social media to throw away marijuana that smells like burnt popcorn, which, by the way, that smell is a sign of being laced with fentanyl and can kill users. It is important to understand what is happening around the interconnected world, and that's why here on The Update we take you around the world to keep you up to date.
There's a lot going on in Arizona news, so let's jump right into it. In Arizona on Wednesday, Clarence Dixon was executed shortly after 10 a.m. at the state prison in Florence. Dixon was 66 years old and was the first person executed by Arizona since the botched execution of Joseph Wood in 2014. He was convicted in 2008 for the 1978 murder of Deanna Baldwin, a 21-year-old senior at Arizona State University, who was found dead inside her apartment with a belt around her neck. Troy Hayden was the media representative. Let's check in and see what he had to say.
Dixon never made eye contact with us. He stared straight up into the ceiling the entire time.
And everyone can have their own personal opinion on the death penalty. Mine sure changed. I started in sociology when I started in college, and I changed my major, but my thinking has changed and evolved. Having gone through this, I think that, again, it's very personal. Everyone grieves personally and differently, and so I can't speak formally only for people that may be opposed to the death penalty, but I would just say, if related to any law, if you don't care for the law that's in place, then there are steps to try to get the law changed. That is.
And in Arizona sports news, the WNBA Mercury player Brittany Griner won't be home anytime soon. Her lawyer, Alexander Boykov, said Friday that the WNBA star's pretrial detention in Russia has been extended by 1 month. He stated that he believes that it's a relatively short extension, and that means that the case will come to trial soon. Griner has been in detention for nearly 3 months now. Now, at the same time, the Russian state news agency TASS has published a story saying there's negotiations going on with Russia and the US behind the scenes for an exchange for Griner for a Russian man being held in the United States facing terrorism charges. Now, American government officials were speaking to ESPN last week, and they expressed massive skepticism about the story and reporting, saying it's not likely of it to do a prisoner swap like this, and more of a tactic that the Russian government is putting out as propaganda. The U.S. official told ESPN that it's further validation of why Griner was recently reclassified as being wrongfully detained, and evidence that the Russian judicial system is merely transactional and is not a real judicial system at all. And finally, after last night's game here in Phoenix, the Suns have been eliminated from the playoffs, getting decimated by the Mavericks, losing 123-90. They started off strong in the first 2 games, but couldn't hold on last night. It was pretty bad. I don't really have words. It looked like amateur hour at the Apollo. But hey, there's always next season. I think we said that last year too. But anyways, and speaking of Phoenix, we have a huge homeless situation that if anyone who's traveling through Phoenix at all, they can't miss it. They can't ignore it. Located within a pocket of streets and sidewalks in downtown Phoenix, the homeless crisis has exploded, as there are more than 1,000 unsheltered people living down on the streets in this area called the Zone. There have been nearly a 450% increase in people camped on the streets and in concentrated areas since 2021. From our investigative reporting, we found it was much less of the consequences of COVID, as some reports may have pushed. Moreover, this is a group of folks with mental illnesses or substance abuse problems. The fact is that this growth of homelessness is not sustainable. Moving on to Arizona's wildfire season, it is getting off to an early start this year. And fire officials this season have stated it could even be more catastrophic in 2022 than in previous years. Already, Arizona has lost over 500,000 acres of wildfire due to wildfires in 2021, and over 900,000, nearly a million acres in 2020. As we reported in our last show, the significant shortage of water in Arizona is causing massive problems. Reports have predicted most of the Southwest will have above normal potential for fires in May and June, though wetter periods between September through December normally help lower fire potential for these certain areas. In Arizona, though the risk for significant fire potential arrived early this year, beginning in March, we know that it's going to go very far and very long this season. So far in 2022, across state and federal tribal lands, there have been approximately 90 fires with a total acreage of 627 acres being burned as of March 8th's calculation. On Sunday, the John Fire burned through 24 acres near Bigsby, and the Ranch Fire burned through 1,663 acres near Concho, and another fire near Oldsburg in the Highway 87. And currently, a wildfire here in Arizona has doubled its size a day after heavy winds kicked up towering walls of flames outside of northern Arizona tourist and college towns, ripping through 24 structures, sending residents of more than 700 homes scrambling to flee. Flames as high as 100 feet raced through the area of scattered homes, dry grass, and ponderosa pines in the rural area outside of Flagstaff, as gusts of 50 miles per hour pushed the blaze over the major highways. There's no significant precipitation in the forecast this week, according to Coconino County officials during a Tuesday interview, and they've said that 766 homes and 1,000 animals have been evacuated or displaced. About 250 structures remain threatened in an area popular with hikers and off-road vehicles users, where astronauts actually train amid volcanic cider pits. The county declared an emergency after the wildfire ballooned from 100 acres Tuesday morning to over 9 square miles by evening, and up to 26 square miles now this past Wednesday. The fire is moving northeast away from more heavily populated areas, thankfully, in Flagstaff, and is moving towards the Sunset Crater Volcano National Monument, according to Coconino National Forest spokesman Brady Smith. Stick with us here on the update, and we'll try to keep you as informed as possible as it's ever changing right here in Arizona with these wildfires. This past week, the Clean Election Commission hosted a candidate forum among Republican candidates running to become Arizona's Attorney General. They have until August 2nd to earn your vote to be the guy or gal who will go against the Democrat candidate this year. It was a group of well-rounded candidates from all walks of life, but they all seemed to agree that the border was their top priority. But then each candidate's priorities shifted after that a bit. Now, the real distinct difference between each candidate was put out there during the debate when candidate Glassman insisted that the AG's office is a partisan office, or at least it should be. He used many examples of Democrats using it as a partisan office to justify his position. However, he was alone on this position, as the other candidates said it was not a partisan job and they did not intend to run it as such. Another big point that stood out in this forum was when Lacey Cooper stated that she was the only candidate who would have signed or witnessed the 2020 election, as Abraham Hamadeh continued to quote the 2000 Mules movie and explained his opposition to certifying the 2020 election. Now, Judge Andrew Gould really didn't give an answer too much. He just stated that he would only operate within the facts of what he knew at the time and not his feelings. Now, Tiffany Shedd, she added that at her reservation where her family visits, that she was there and she could attest that a poll worker was telling voters that they were not allowed to vote for a different party than what they were registered. Now, the moderator immediately asked if this was something that was being prosecuted. And to her answer, she said not to her knowledge. So, Tiffany did stand out as on the border issue as a landowner, herself dealing with these issues firsthand. She even talked about some of the examples of how she has to deal with them to press charges. However, nearly everyone has some experience on the border security conversation, as many have served in border projects in former President Trump's administration. This race is really heating up, and we're working on scheduling each candidate to come on air in the next few weeks or so to speak to you first-time voters out there. If you didn't get a chance to watch this debate, you want to check it out here on the update. We have it on HYFNTV network under our election coverage, so make sure you do catch it if you haven't. It was great. Now, our last show, we went over the senators in Arizona, and there was 30 of them, one for each district. Now here in Arizona in the House of Representatives, we have 60 representatives, 2 per district. And they are your voice at the Capitol. So I want to buzz through these with you real quick so you can get to know who represents you in your district. So go check out what district you're in, so when I read off your district, you know who to call when you have questions. Now let's get started. First off, in District 1, we have Republican Judy Burgess and Quan Nguyen. In District 2, we have Andrea D'Alessandro and Daniel Hernandez, both Democrats. In District 3, again, 2 Democrats, Andre Cano and Alma Hernandez. In District 4, we have Brian Fernandez, Democrat, and Joe John, Republican. In District 5, we have Leo Barsuzzi, Majority Whip, and then we have Regina Cobb, both Republicans. And in District 6, we have Brenda Barton and Walter, or known as Walt Blackman, both Republicans. And in District 7, we have Democrats Jasmine Blackwater and Myron Tutsi. And in District 8, we have Neil Carter and David Cook, both Republicans. In District 9, we have Christopher Mathis and Pamela Powers Hanley, both Democrats. District 10, we have Morgan Abraham and Domingo de Grazia, both Democrats. In District 11, we have Mark Fincham and Teresa Martinez, both Republicans. And in District 12, we have Speaker Pro Temp Travis Grantham and Jake Hoffman, both Republicans. District 13, we have Republicans Tim Dunn and Joanne Osborne. And in District 14, we have Lupe Diaz and Gail Griffin, both Republicans. District 15, we have Republicans Steve Kaiser and Justin Wilmoth. District 16, we have Republicans John Fillmore and Jacqueline Parker. District 17, we have Democrat Jennifer Pollock and Republican Jeff Winiger. In District 18, we have Metzi Epstein, Democrat, and Jennifer Germain, Democrat. District 19, we have Democrats Diego Espinoza and Lorenzo Sierra. And in District 20, we have Republicans Shauna Bullock and Democrat Judy Schweibert. In District 21, we have Republicans Kevin Payne and Beverly Pergelli. In District 22, we have Republicans Frank Carroll and Ben Toma, also the majority leader. District 23, we have Joseph Chaplick and John Kavanaugh, both Republicans. In District 24, we have Assistant Minority Leader Jennifer Longden and Democrat Amish Shah. And in District 25, we have Rusty Bowers, Speaker of the House, and Michelle Udall, both Republicans. In District 26, we have Democrats Melody Hernandez and Athena Salman. District 27, we have Minority Leader Reginald Boulding Jr. and Marcelino Quiones. District 28, we have Kelly Butler and Sarah Logurai, both Democrats. District 29, we have Richard Andrade, Democrat, and Cesar Chavez, also a Democrat. And in District 30, we have Robert Meza, Democrat, and Christian Solorio, also Democrat. And that will do it for all of your current representatives. I apologize if I butchered your names, that's not my strongest suit. But we do want to make sure all of our viewers out there on the update get to know who represents them, because the representatives are your voice at the Capitol.